Bayern Munich and Bayern Leverkusen. What are the differences? Well, Bayern always win the league. Bayer never win the league. Bayern have a lot of money to spend. Bayer don't have a lot of money to spend. Bayern's manager came in expecting to win the league. Bayer's manager came in while his team were relegation candidates. Yet Bayern sits second in the table while Bayer are first. And that's due to their manager Xabi Alonso. Now, midfielders tend to make good managers. And players that have been managed by greats also tend to be good managers. So when you get a midfielder that was managed by Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola, it's not a massive surprise when he turns out to be a good manager. But the best thing about Xabi is the fact that he uses parts he's learnt from other managers. He has hints of Guardiola, Mourinho, and also Klopp, and he's molded it all together to create a system that's very difficult to beat. So let's look at each player one by one. First of all, we have Hradecky, also known as the guy who did this. He's having a good season, and he's a good shot stopper. Now, Grimaldo is your traditional wing-back. He defends deep, and he joins the attack. He also helps out the back three in build-up, while Frimpong is very different. The only time he's deep is when Leverkusen is sitting in the low block. He's always acting as a winner, trying to get goals and assists. The wide centre-backs are aggressive players, and we'll get onto them later. While Xhaka and Palacios are calm and good on the ball. Florian Wirtz is one of the most exciting players in the world. He's a great dribbler and he's creative. And don't be surprised if he goes some of the big money. Jonas Hoffmann is less of a dribbler than Florian Wirtz, but he's more creative. And he scores a lot of goals. Victor Boniface is a physical striker. He can hold people off, but he can also go around them. Not only is he a clinical finisher, but he also gives chances for others. In build-up, Alonso doesn't really use his 3-4-3, but more of a 4-2-4. A bit like Brighton. Now they slowly pass it around the back, using Xhaka and Palacios as positioning, as they're very comfortable on the ball. Now let's stop here. If you see my Brighton video, you might know that this is perfect for a third-man pass. And Xabi Alonso has got hints of Zerbi in him as well. This can help them progress up the pitch and go into their more attacking phase. But if no one's pressing them, they can use one of their aggressive wide centre-backs to break into midfield. But they have another tactic. They can squeeze their players towards one side of the pitch with quick, intricate passing combinations before switching it out to the other side. This could be influenced by a Brazilian tactic called relationism. Here's an example from a Bundesliga match against Bochum. Over here, Leverkusen have committed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players to one side of the pitch. This draws in 6 Bochum players, and a simple switch of play gets them underway with loads of space to run into. They eventually win a penalty and make it 1-0. Now, although it's a 3-4-3 on paper, it's more of a 3-4-2-1, because Hoffmann and Wirtz aren't your average wingers. They're more like number 10s, and we can see this when Grimaldo and Frimpong push up. And it creates 3-2-2-3. If you've been looking at how modern teams have been setting up recently, well, almost every top team uses a 3-2-2-3. But we can look at why in a different video. What we know is that it's very successful for Leverkusen. The wing-backs stay wide, stretching the opposition defence and allowing space in the half spaces for people like Florian Wirtz, who can work their magic and create chances. Florian Wirtz can receive the ball at any part of the pitch and turn it into a chance, which he can score from. He's a really scary prospect for the opposition. In this game against Hoffenheim, Leverkusen have their clear front 5. Wirtz has drifted to the left now. He nutmegs the first defender to get past him, and then he draws another one with him. And we can clearly see this has left Victor Boniface free, who receives the ball. He has 2 defenders on him while Florian Wirtz has 1. A quick bit of skill gets him round both of them, which draws Florian Wirtz's marker and another one, leaving Wirtz free. Boniface manages to keep the ball despite 4 players on him, play it to Wirtz, and he scores. But the thing I found interesting about this goal isn't just the individual skill but the rotation. Initially Boniface is in the centre while Wirtz is in the half space and Grimaldo is wide. Grimaldo swaps with Wirtz, which confuses the opposition, but also gives Leverkusen an option they didn't have before on the left, in someone that's able to dribble. But Leverkusen confuses their opposition again, bringing Boniface wide, and this confusion causes 4 players to mark him, leaving Wirtz free to score. Now, throughout this attack, Leverkusen have kept their 3-2-5 shape, but look at the 3-2-5 shape before and after. It seems like Xabi cares more that his structure is the same than he does who's in the structure. And that is something that a lot of Guardiola-like managers use, including Pep himself, and probably something he learned under Pep at Bayern. To get a better look at their style, I went to Opta Analyst. This is a graph. On one side it shows how long it takes for a team to attack. On the other side it shows how many passes it takes for a team to attack. A team like Everton would sit back in a low block, and their chances would come from counter-attacks which rely on speed. Meanwhile, Man City slowly pass the ball around looking for gaps. When in the final third, they will slowly move the ball from side to side, looking for gaps in the opposition's defensive structure. This takes a while and takes many passes before finding a gap and scoring. So City play the most passes per sequence and have the longest sequences in the Premier League, which is why they're slow and intricate. So what does Leverkusen look like on this chart? Well, here it is. They're the slowest and most intricate out of all the Bundesliga teams, including Bayern Munich. In fact, Xabi Alonso has the most passes per sequence, most build-up attacks, slowest attacks, second longest sequence times, and most amount of sequences with more than 10 passes in the Bundesliga. And like City, they want to slowly pass it round, looking for gaps in the opposition's defense. So that's what they do in possession. But what about when they don't have the ball? Well, one of the reasons that Xabi Alonso has been linked to a move with Liverpool to replace Klopp is because of his counter-pressing, or gegenpressing. And when his team loses the ball, they would pounce to try win it back immediately, not only giving them possession again, but also giving them a good chance to score from. Now later on they get into a more settled 5-2-3, which is a bit weird, but the wings get narrower, which is still a bit weird, but we have to take into account the wing-backs. Now, the reason the shape looks a bit interesting is the lack of width. The only width is held by the wing-backs, which means the opposition could easily create an overload. If the wing-back commits, there's space in behind, and if the wing-back doesn't commit, then there's, well, an overload, and a lot of space for them to exploit. But Leverkusen's 5-2-3 structure is actually really smart. The ball can't really go through the centre, because Leverkusen have so many players stopping the ball going there. But as soon as it goes out wide, one of the wingbacks would push on. But they don't face the problem I mentioned earlier because the rest of the back four move across. So when the ball's wide on Leverkusen's right, Frimpong suddenly becomes a winger and Kosunu becomes a fullback. It really is a genius way of defending, and we know it works because Leverkusen have only conceded 8 open play goals this season, 8 in 20 games. And another reason for their success is set pieces. Leverkusen have the second most goals from set pieces this season in the Bundesliga, only behind Bayern Munich. Speaking of the German champions, let's end this video the way we started it. Bayern Munich have won the Bundesliga 11 times in a row. No one's managed to break that streak. And Dortmund have been so close so many times, so it would be amazing if Leverkusen finally managed to do it. They're 2 points ahead after 20 games played. What do you think's going to happen? Well, Leverkusen's most important game of the season is probably their next game this season, because they face off against Bayern Munich. And that will be one of the most crucial matches in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. It will help decide who will win the Bundesliga. But whether he wins it or not, it's quite clear that he's one of the best managers in Europe. And although he might be one of the youngest, Xabi's future is looking bright.